about class, what's the difference between going to class where the teacher or the professor tends to just simply lecture and talk at you? And maybe sometimes they're not even very good lecturers, so it can be monotone and boring and hard to listen to, right? Those probably are not our favorite classes. We might like the subject, but those might be the type of classes that are really hard to sit through because just being talked at isn't always the most engaging. Now, think about other teachers and professors where they structure class so that you are given guides to ask questions and seek answers and discuss and different activities so that you become a full participant in what's going on. And then before you realize it, you've actually become, in a sense, your own teacher because you were given the tools to learn something new almost on your own, right? I think it's fair to say that classes that are simply lecture are not as enjoyable, meaningful, or maybe we don't get as much out of the class as if those other classes where we really have this active, vibrant participation, right? Am I right about that? Yeah, okay. I used to be a student too. And a teacher. So I try to keep that in mind. I was terrible at being the good kind of teacher. I'm just no good at it. But keep that example in mind. Because as I was praying with the Gospels this week, there was something that was bothering me. Now, we've heard the story of the Transfiguration. It's one of the most famous, popular, well-spoken passages in all the Gospels. It's something we've probably heard homilies and sermons on over and over. But there was something that was new as I read it this week. Something was bothering me. Why only 3 people? Jesus takes only 3 people with him to the top of the mountain. He only shows his true identity to 3 people. Why? Faith is hard enough. Trying to wrestle with our own doubt is definitely hard enough. In a world that's so desperate to know who Jesus really is, and for us who struggle with faith, it's hard enough. Why? Why would Jesus, in the revelation of his divinity, why would he just limit it to 3 people? Why not come down from the mountain, wander around transfigured, and show everybody? Why not? Why not just show up today and say, I know life is tough, the world's a mess, listen, here I am. Let me just clarify. Let me make this simpler for you. Why? Why does God choose to do it this way? Why is it so hard? Why only 3 people and then, oh hey, by the way guys, Peter, James, and John, you just tell the other billion or so people, right? You tell them. Why not just do it yourself, Jesus? Why not make all of this so much easier? And I think the answer is participation. I really think that God's design, St. Paul wrote about this in the second reading, that God had this own design. God had a very clear understanding of how he wanted the work of the salvation of the world to go. And for some strange reason, maybe for the same reason that when we're active participants in a classroom, we get more out of it, maybe it's the same reason, I think it is, that we're called to be active participants in the work, in the mission, in the ministry of the salvation of the world. I don't think God desires to just simply do it himself. Otherwise, he would. I actually believe that it is God's desire that in all good things, in every good thing that God longs to do, he calls us to be active participants. You may remember the very first story in the Bible, right? That Garden of Eden, we're familiar with that one. And as soon as God creates Adam and Eve, he gives them the work of being the caretakers, the cultivators of the Garden of Eden. And the reason for that is the Garden of Eden wasn't finished yet. It had not yet been cultivated. Why would God create an incomplete garden? It's because he was calling us to be active participants even in his work of creation. And so Jesus' revelation of his identity is not just for him to show to the whole world, but for a design that's hard to understand, for a design and a plan that we struggle with. We are called to be active participants. We are called to come down from the mountain, leave this Mass, and go forth and proclaim to others. Tell others what has been told to us by Peter, James, and John. And this is the heart, this is the meaning, this is the depth of what we heard in the first reading. At the very beginning of God's plan for the foundation of the salvation of the world, God called Abram and his wife Sarai. Their names changed to Abraham and Sarah later. But God said to Abraham and Sarah, your descendants, you and your descendants, I am calling to work with me to bless the world. That's your job. Bless the world. And through you and your descendants, the whole world will be blessed. This is what we've been called to. We have not been called to judge the world, condemn the world, criticize the world, belittle the world, condescend to the world. We have not been called to divide, to do anything negative. Our call from the very beginning, given to Abraham and Sarah, and handed on to us, is to be a blessing to the world. I think we need to get better at this. I think too often we as Christians, we long to honor God and worship God. We acknowledge God's divinity, Jesus' divinity here, but then we go out and we engage in the rest of the way the world lives. We do what the world does. We conform to the agendas and the activities of the world. We have fallen short. I propose to you, and I'm sorry for the indictment, but I propose to you, the reason the world is so broken today is because we Christians, the largest religion in humanity, we Christians have fallen short in our mission to be a blessing to the world. There's plenty of examples. Just yesterday, bombing another country, killing dozens of children in a school. Early January, attacking Venezuela. The largest human trafficking scheme ever put together, and many people in our government are implicated in it, and then others in the government are covering it up. Where is the blessing to the world? And many of those people who claim to be part of this mess, who claim to be advocating this evil, this horror, they publicly claim to be Christians. How are we blessing the world? Now, I know this is difficult because as students, in some sense, you are powerless. There isn't a lot you can do right now. But I'm sorry to say your time in college will come to a conclusion quicker than you'd like. And then you'll be in places where you can be a blessing to the world. The day will come where you find yourselves in those halls of finance and power. You will be in places where you can bring about a blessing to the world. Our world is structured to bless those who are already incredibly blessed, right? Those who have incredible power and wealth. Our whole society is structured to bless them. We need to be those agents of God's blessing, and the measure for this is how we care for the poor and the oppressed. We need to be those, I should say we, I'm sorry, I have a job. You need to be those who go out into the world, into those places that I will never be. I will never be in the boardrooms, in the offices, on the stage, in the factory, in the field, where you find yourselves having the power and the ability to be a blessing to the poor and the oppressed. I won't ever be where you will be someday soon. And just as God said to Abraham, Sarah, and all of their descendants, our vocation is to be a blessing to the world. All the nations of the world should be blessed through us, by us. There's a lot of blessing to be done. A lot of evil that we have to stand up against. A lot of prayers need to be prayed, but even more importantly, a lot of action needs to be done. Because we who acknowledge Jesus Christ as God, as Savior, as risen from the dead, need to live and bless others differently than the way the rest of the world does.